The bell above the cafe door jingled, but Rachel barely looked up. Her apron was stained with coffee, her hands trembling from exhaustion and hope. In 3 hours she had an interview at Sterling Industries, the kind of job people like her never even got a call for. Then a sound sliced through the noise of steaming milk and clinking cups, a child crying outside. Rachel turned. On the sidewalk stood a little girl in a private school blazer, clutching a backpack like it was the last safe thing in the world. "Sweetheart, where's your mom?" Rachel asked, voice gentle. "She's gone," the girl whispered. "And my driver didn't come. I can't find my dad." Rachel's heart dropped. The clock behind the counter read 1:15. If she left now, she'd miss the interview she'd waited 5 years for. If she stayed, a scared child would stay lost in the middle of Fifth Avenue. She made her choice. What she didn't know was that the man waiting at the end of that walk, the girl's father, owned the very company she'd just sacrificed everything to work for. This story will break you, then lift you higher. Watch till the end. And if it touches your heart, hit like and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. The wind whipped down Fifth Avenue as Rachel gripped the little girl's hand and stepped into the current of strangers. Cars honked, shoes clicked on wet pavement, and her mind screamed with the ticking clock in her head. 15 blocks. 45 minutes. Every block felt like a trade-off between compassion and survival. "Are you sure your dad's at Sterling Tower?" she asked, trying to sound calm. "Yes," the girl sniffed. "He works on the top floor. Everyone says he's important." Rachel forced a smile. "Then we'll get you there, okay? No matter what." Inside she felt the world collapsing. Her uniform still smelled like burnt espresso, her shoes pinched her feet, and the subway home was already out of reach. She kept walking. At a red light, a man in a suit sneered. "Maybe don't bring kids into Midtown if you can't control them." Rachel bit her tongue. The man didn't even glance at the trembling child. That's this city, she thought bitterly. Everyone's got somewhere to be, and kindness is never on the list. By the time Sterling Tower came into view, a massive wall of glass against a steel-gray sky, Rachel's heart pounded from both exhaustion and panic. She'd made her choice. Now she had to live with it. The lobby swallowed them in polished marble and hushed power. Rachel hesitated, feeling the eyes of guards and executives sliding over her stained uniform. The receptionist barely looked up until Rachel said, "This little girl's lost. She's looking for her father, Christopher Sterling." The woman froze mid-sentence. "S. Sterling. As in Mr. Sterling." Her tone flipped from bored to terrified. Within seconds, security moved, phones rang, and then the elevator doors burst open. A tall man strode out, jacket unbuttoned, face pale with fear. "Sophie!" The girl's cry echoed. "Daddy!" Rachel stepped back as he fell to his knees, hugging his daughter so tightly it hurt to watch. The relief in his voice cracked. "Where were you? I thought I'd lost you." When Sophie pointed to Rachel, his gaze turned. Dark, piercing, cessing. "You brought her here." "Yes, sir," she stammered. "I found her outside the cafe where I work. She looked scared." For a second, something like disbelief flickered across his face. Then he extended his hand. "Christopher Sterling. I owe you more than I can say." Rachel's calloused fingers met his perfectly manicured grip. The contrast said everything about their worlds. And just as warmth reached her chest, her phone alarm blared. 2 p.m. Her chance gone. 2 days later the call came. Sterling Industries wanted to reschedule her interview. The word replayed in her head all night like a prayer and a warning. By morning she was ready, hair pulled back, blazer pressed, nerves steel-tight. The building that had once made her feel small now gleamed like a promise. But the receptionist's smile was strange. "Mr. Sterling asked to meet you personally." The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. When the doors opened, he was there. Impeccable suit, calm intensity, the same blue eyes that had broken with emotion 2 days ago. "I wanted to thank you properly," he began. "Not everyone would have done what you did." I just did what felt right, Rachel said quietly. He studied her a moment longer. That's exactly why I want you here. When he offered her the executive assistant position, she almost couldn't speak. The salary number barely registered. What mattered was the look in his eyes. Genuine respect. In a city that chewed people like her alive, that felt revolutionary. Weeks turned into months. Rachel adapted fast. Her desk overlooked Central Park, her nameplate gleamed, but she never forgot the diner grease under her nails or the exhaustion of working 2 jobs. She worked harder than anyone else, not to impress but to prove she belonged. Some nights Christopher stayed late too. They'd talk about strategy, then about life. His daughter, her father's medical bills, the quiet loneliness success never cured. He listened when she spoke, really listened, and that alone was dangerous. Because slowly, the air between them changed. You ever think about what kindness costs? He asked one night, eyes on the skyline. Everything, she said. And sometimes it pays back in ways you never expect. He smiled faintly. That's what I'm counting on. But peace never lasts long in places built on ambition. Her first real enemy wore red lipstick and a smirk. Diane Rothschild, art dealer and bored darling. She started showing up unannounced, leaning on Christopher's desk, laughing too loudly at things that weren't funny. One afternoon, she turned to Rachel and said sweetly, "You must be the girl who traded an interview for a pity job. How inspiring." Rachel held her stare. "Kindness isn't pity, Ms. Rothschild. It's character." Diane's smile faltered, but only for a heartbeat. "Careful, dear. In this world, character doesn't pay the bills." Rachel's voice was calm. "Funny, mine just did." From that day, Diane made her mission clear. Whispers to the board, concerns about professionalism, subtle digs meant to isolate Rachel. It worked for a while. The same executives who once praised her now eyed her with suspicion. Even Christopher seemed tense, distracted. The distance hurt more than she wanted to admit. Then came the company retreat. The Hamptons estate looked like something out of a magazine. Glass walls, private beach, money everywhere. Rachel promised herself she'd stay professional. But Sophie ran to her the moment she arrived. "Dad smiles more when you're around," the girl said innocently. "I think you're good for him." Rachel forced a laugh. "I'm just here to help, sweetheart." That night, beneath the sound of waves, Christopher knocked on her door. "There's something I need to tell you," he said softly. "About why I really hired you." When he told her about his late wife, her dying wish to surround Sophie with good people, Rachel understood the weight behind his choices. But before she could process it, Sophie burst in crying. Diane had been caught snooping through Margaret Sterling's locked cabinet, trying to appraise the jewelry collection. Christopher's fury was volcanic. "Pack your things, Diane. You're done here." She tried to protest, but his voice cut through the room like glass. "You don't touch what isn't yours." The scandal exploded the next morning. The board demanded explanations, tabloids sniffed blood, and Diane, cornered and vindictive, spread lies that Rachel had seduced her way to power. Screenshots, fake messages, twisted half-truths. Rachel walked into the office to whispers that burned worse than open hate. HR summoned her for an ethics review. The same manager who once smiled now looked at her like a liability. "Mr. Sterling insists this is a misunderstanding," he said coldly. "But perception matters. Perhaps you should take unpaid leave while we investigate." Rachel stared at the floor. "You mean fire me without saying it?" He didn't answer. When she stepped outside, the rain had already begun. The city felt heavier than ever. She'd done everything right, given everything, and still she was being erased. That night, she packed her apartment. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. "Ms. Morgan, this is Channel 7 News. Care to comment on the Sterling affair?" She hung up, heart racing. How did kindness become a headline? The next morning, her inbox exploded. Hundreds of strangers had seen security footage leaked from Sterling Tower, the moment she'd walked in with Sophie, coffee-stained and terrified. The clip went viral. Woman sacrifices interview to rescue lost child. The narrative flipped overnight. Viewers called her the heart of New York. Comment sections flooded with messages of support. Sterling Industries stock soared from the unexpected PR halo. And then Christopher called. "Come back to the office," he said simply. It's time people saw the truth. When Rachel stepped through the glass doors again, the lobby that once swallowed her now erupted in applause. Employees lined the corridor. Sophie ran into her arms, crying with joy. At the end of the hall stood Christopher, flanked by reporters. He took the microphone. "This woman represents what Sterling Industries should stand for. Integrity, empathy, courage. When others chose image, she chose humanity." He turned toward the board. "Those who tried to destroy that." His gaze landed squarely on Diane, pale and trembling at the edge of the crowd. "No longer have a place here." Gasps rippled. "Effective immediately," he continued. "Ms. Rothschild's contract is terminated, and a full review will investigate the internal leaks she engineered." Security stepped forward. Diane's facade shattered. "You'll regret this," she hissed. Christopher's voice was calm steel. "The only regret I have is trusting you." Cameras flashed. The moment burned across headlines within hours. Billionaire CEO defends woman who saved his daughter. Rachel didn't need fame. What she wanted was peace, and maybe finally a chance to breathe. Later that night, Christopher found her by the elevator. "You once asked if kindness pays off," he said quietly. "Now you know." Rachel smiled faintly. "It doesn't always. But when it does, it changes everything." He nodded, eyes softening. "It's far from over, Rachel. The world just saw who you are. Let's see how far your courage can take you." The elevator doors slid shut, leaving viewers and Rachel on the edge of a new beginning. That night, the city outside Sterling Tower shimmered under quiet rain. Inside, Rachel stood by the window of her new office, watching the reflection of herself. Not the barista who once feared losing everything, but a woman who had learned what truly mattered. Her journey hadn't been about luck or charity. It had been about choosing what was right, even when it cost her. Christopher's voice echoed in her memory. "The world just saw who you are." And for the first time she believed it. The noise of gossip, the stares of the powerful, the cruel whispers, they no longer carried weight. Because she'd discovered something stronger than status or wealth. The peace that comes from doing good without expecting applause. When Sophie burst into the room laughing, holding 2 cups of coffee, one for her, one for Dad, Rachel smiled. The same smell that once meant exhaustion now meant home. She looked out over Manhattan again, the streets glimmering like veins of light, each one a reminder that even in a city that never stops, kindness still leaves a mark that doesn't fade. Because in the end, Rachel didn't just get the job she dreamed of. She earned a life she could be proud of. A life built not on titles, but on truth. If stories like this move you, show your support. Hit like, share this video with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more true stories that remind us. Doing good is never wasted.